everybody, it's Dan with Trapping the Ozarks, and today we're going to wax a few traps. It's the 15th of October. Trapping season's about a month out. We've had a couple of rainy, gloomy, foggy days, but today the rain has quit. It's a comfortable 49 degrees outside, so it's a perfect day to start a fire and wax some traps. There's a couple different ways to wax traps, a couple different theories basically on that. A lot of guys use like a fish cooker or something like that to melt the wax. I'm kind of old school in that I like just to start a fire and get the wax melted with a fire. It gives me an opportunity to be outside, to just enjoy nature. Plus it really gives me an opportunity to kind of reminisce about when I was young, 12, 13 years old, when I used to go out and wax traps with my dad, and we'd boil the traps and we dye the traps with walnut husk, and it just gives me an opportunity to reflect upon where I have been in trapping and think about my dad. And it really is kind of a lost art, trapping is, and I kind of enjoy just going back to some of the old school techniques. So what I do is I have a fire pit here in the back of my house overlooking my property, and I just put some bricks in it, start a little fire. You don't want the fire to get too hot, because if your wax gets too hot, you can catch the wax on fire. So then I just use a tub, I melt the wax, and then I dip the traps in the wax. It's not rocket science. The big thing, I think, for most people is once you dip the wax, or the trap, excuse me, into the wax, you need to let it sit in there for a few minutes, especially if it's chilly outside. That steel, that trap is cool. As it goes in there, it'll accept the wax much better once it has an opportunity to warm up a little bit and kind of create about the same temperature range that the wax is. So if people say 15, 20, 25 seconds, I kind of stick it in there, and you'll kind of see it not do really anything at first, then you'll kind of see it bubble a little bit as the temperature of the trap changes. I kind of wait until that stops. Usually for me, it's around maybe 30 seconds or so. And then when you pull the trap out, you won't have any clumps on it. It'll be a nice like liquid just falling off the trap, and just be an ever so fine coat of wax on the trap. So that's kind of how I do it in an overview. So let's get started and wax some traps. Okay, we've got our trap. Our wax is melted down pretty nicely. So we're going to set our trap in there. Just let it set for a few minutes. You can kind of almost hear the bubbling as the wax heats up the metal of the trap. Some guys will put water in here and boil their traps and dye them at the same time as they wax them, and then pull the trap up through the wax. I find that doesn't cover as well. It's a quicker and maybe easier way to do it, but I don't think that it's as good a way to do it, honestly. So now how you can, I don't know if you can hear this or not, but basically that bubbling has kind of gone away. So that trap is the same temperature as the wax, so it's gonna take a nice coat of wax. And then as you lift it up, you can see the wax just kind of liquefy right off the trap. So I just shake it out. We hang it up and do another trap. Once we're done waxing all the traps and giving them all a good cover of the wax, simply hang them up, let them dry for a few minutes. Doesn't take long, 20 minutes or so, and they're usually pretty dry. You'll see they're just a nice, very thin, they almost look like they're wet, and that's just a very thin coating of wax on them. That's a perfect coating, versus if it's real thick and then you set the trap and it's all flaking off. That's just a situation when your wax was not hot enough and you didn't allow the trap to warm up to the wax. If you just sit it in there cold, pull it right back out immediately, it'll be all clumpy and stuff. Then I let my fire go out. I put my lid back on my my can, and then once the wax basically cools down and becomes a block, I simply store my container with my can and just wait until it's time to wax traps again. And then you can continuously add wax to it, so you can continually keep using the wax that you don't use over and over and over again. So hope that helps with waxing your traps. Now simply about a month more and we're ready to go.